the natural selection version 2 model, what do you think the purpose of this lab is?
The purpose of this lab is just to develop a model that shows how these predatory birds prey on worms annually over 3 generations.
And we have to see how the color of the worms impacts how they're preyed upon over a series of generations.
Okay, one thing we'll have to make sure is to find out the location where there's both contrast and cryptic worms. So we'll have to find an appropriate place to find those. So let's go do that right now.
We're doing 360.
Now let's delve deeper into the design model and more thoroughly discuss the numbers.
Looking into the model we created for our experiment, we looked through generation 1, which has 600 cryptic and 400 contrast with a total of 1,000 worms. Now when you move through generation 1, look at the predation rate, we have to take a couple of things into account. One, our ability to use chopsticks as a group, since that is our method of predation, and two, how long we'll be predating on. Taking these variables into account, we decided that 50 of each of our cryptic worms would be predated on, and 75 of our contrast worms would be predated on. This difference is obviously due to the visibility of contrast and their inability to be camouflaged, therefore being more likely to be predated. So as after predation, we were left with 150 of each cryptic and 125 of each contrast. Going from generation 1 to generation 2, there were a lot more variables we had to take into account. Reproducing under stress, which we decided the more stress a worm was under, the less likely they'd be able to reproduce. Crossbreeding between contrast and cryptic worms, natural deaths. So when you did reproducing under stress, we decided that the cryptic would be less stressed since they're camouflaged, less likely to be predated on. We decided that 0.15 of the cryptic females would be under stress and therefore not produce. For contrast, we decided they'd be a lot more stressed, therefore not producing. So we decided 0.3 of them, 0.3 of the contrast females would be under stressed and therefore not reproduce. Another thing, natural deaths. We decided that going from generation, it's evident that there would be natural deaths occurring. So we decided that 0.95 of our population would go on to the next generation, while 0.05 would die of natural causes, leaving us a total of 262 cryptic and 216 contrast with the next generation. Now, with our predation, our predation rate did go up a little bit just because of the increase in population, even though the predators were still the same amount. But we decided that with an increase in population, we decided that the predation rate should go up a little, leaving 207 and 136. Now, when you went on from generation 3, we kept the same principles with our 0.95 natural death advancement and reproducing under stress for each of the type of worms, giving us 360 of each cryptic, 218 of each contrast. Our predation rate did change a little bit just because of the abundance of cryptic. This number went up by 10, while this number went down by 5, just because of the abundance there was, even though they're more camouflaged. We believe that in theory they should be predated on a lot more than before, just because of the abundance. Went up by 100, their population. So that left us a 295 of cryptic and 143 of contrast. As you can see, that left about 60 population decrease for contrast and about almost 100 population increase for cryptic. Thank you.